GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show that'll boost your mood like the first sip of coffee on a Monday morning. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton, and today we are joined by Kyle Reidhead, co-owner and head of research for Milk Road. Today, we are taking a look back on 2024. What were the major milestones? What were the highlights of the year? We're going to have a bit of fun today and remind you guys of what an incredible year it was in crypto and what is it setting us up for next year. Where did we get to in 2024? It was a banner year for crypto. And what is it going to allow for the future of crypto and for your investments? Before we jump in, if you guys like our channel, if you enjoy listening to us, please do me a favor and take a minute and subscribe or give us a like. It makes a big difference and helps us get in front of more people, which brings more investors and more knowledgeable people into the crypto space. We're just going to take a minute to hear from our sponsors who make this show possible. Meanwhile is the world's first licensed and regulated life insurance company built for the Bitcoin economy. They do everything in BTC. You pay in BTC, they pay claims to your family in BTC. You take out policy loans entirely in BTC when you need liquidity. Protect your family from life's uncertainty and a broken financial system. Build intergenerational Bitcoin wealth while the cost of living skyrockets in dollar terms. Plus, get all the tax and legal benefits of life insurance now in Bitcoin. Visit milkroad.com/meanwhile to join the waitlist and get early access to the world's first Bitcoin life insurance. Kyle, what's going on, my man? Welcome back to the show.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy to be here.
Thanks, man. Happy holidays to you too. Okay, let's start off with, as you reflect back on 2024, how do you feel? How do you feel with where we're at right now?
I mean, I love where we're at. I think 2024 was probably a poster year for crypto, a year that I think set us up to kind of change the destiny of crypto. We call it like the golden age of crypto came out of 2024. And I say that because of multiple things have sort of come together to allow us to sort of take off from here. I think the macro setup, which we talk about a ton, has really kind of formed to set us up for a big 2025 in terms of liquidity, rates coming down, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about that. The regulation side, I think, has just been a poster year in 2024 in terms of Trump winning, the SEC getting replaced with Gary Gensler, and just like everyone in the US basically in politics has come together and they're now all pro crypto. And so that's going to set us up for just a massive 2025 and beyond. It's not just about next year at this point. And then I think the technology has really gotten figured out over the last year. L2s have really had a moment and taken off, especially with Base. Solana has had its moment, has been battle tested with all this meme coin activity. I think we've done so much on the tech side that we're actually finally ready for the first time for mainstream adoption. I'm actually very grateful we didn't go mainstream in 2024 or 2023 because we were definitely not ready. Now it feels like, I mean, we're still not ready for billions of people, but we're close, right? We're a lot more ready than we ever were. And we're now ready for millions, let's say, of people, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions. And so the tech appears to be ready. The politics, the regulation appears to be finally ready. And then macro, at least for 2025 or for a portion of 2025, is ready. And so it's kind of all come together to set us up for what I think is going to be a really, really big year next year, an exciting year. And then it's like, look, do I think that price just goes up for forever? We have super cycle? No, but I think in terms of adoption, in terms of like new use cases, new apps, and like actually integrating this stuff into real life, I think that does go up moving forward. And it's a super cycle of adoption. Price action will still always go up and down and probably have cycles and whatever. And that's all dependent on macro. But I think in terms of just like people finally not thinking this thing is dead and starting to really use this in life and have apps and things that are in crypto that actually change people's lives for the better, I think we'll have a super cycle of that. And I think that's really exciting. That's really what 2024 and of course, many of the years before this have set us up for. But I love that we're doing this review, Jay, because one of the best things you can do as an investor is to look back on how you performed when certain events happened. Investing is not just hey, I got an idea. I'm going to buy some Bitcoin and that's just it. It is a journey and you need to get better and better at it every single day. It's like your job, or it's like weight loss or getting healthy, right? You don't just go to the gym one time and then that's it. You forget about it. You just keep going and you do the same thing every time. Absolutely not. You go, you learn. How did you lift? How did you eat? How did that make you feel? How can you get better day in and day out? And it's a process. I've been working out for 20 years, right? And improving my health for 20 years. And I feel like I'm better than I was 20 years ago, but I'm still not perfect. And I just keep getting better and better. And you got to think of investing the same way. And one of the best ways to get better in self-development, in growth, in health, in whatever the heck it is you're trying to learn, is you do things, you keep trying things, and then you reflect back and you learn about how did you do under pressure? How did you do when this news event happened? When this opportunity came? Could you have done something differently there? Should you have done something differently there? Or, did you let your mental get the best of you, right? It's all these kind of things that help you learn. So I love journaling, and it's one of my favorite reasons of writing. It's why I love writing pro reports so often and writing a newsletter and having these podcasts, because like I can always look back every week on our podcast together, Jay, or on my pro reports and like see, hey, how was I thinking when that happened? And I think I challenge everyone here listening to do the same. Look back on 2024 and figure out how did you do it as an investor and what could you have done better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's such an important thing to do, but so rarely done. Reflection is it's not the fun, sexy thing to do, to sit and reflect and journal. But man, it's like eating healthy food. It's not the tastiest or the best thing out there, but if you got the discipline to do it, it'll pay off in the long run. When you talk about adoption and one of the biggest things from the last year was definitely the year of the ETF. Like, wow. The ETF launched basically at the start of the year. I think it was January 10th that we launched, which was a huge, huge start to the year. And if we look at this, like, look at how the Bitcoin ETF, I'm just going to pull up a chart here on the screen. Bitcoin ETF is hovering around 35 billion in net inflows since the start of the year. Just an absolute incredible achievement, by far and above the biggest ETF launch of all time, smashing records. I think we're just getting started. The Bitcoin ETF, I think, will be larger next year. I don't know what you have in your predictions, Kai. We don't need to get into predictions today. This is about a reflection, but I think it'll be even larger next year. And I think this is one of the things that's really setting us up to have more adoption on the investment side.
Yeah, there's no doubt that probably the biggest thing to happen in 2024, outside of maybe Trump winning the election, I would say, is the ETFs getting approved. And I think this is just the beginning. I don't know if we'll probably have bigger numbers next year than this year, mainly because we'll have a full year. These didn't go live until, was it January or February, something like that?
It was Jan 10th, so it was pretty close to almost a full year.
Well, that's going to be interesting to see. I don't know. But I'm sure it's going to be a massive year, but it was so big already this year. But I just think that this already opened the door for an ETH ETF, right? And then it's already opening the door for all these applications for an XRP and Solana and whatever else we've had, ETFs. And so there's a trend here that started in 2024. And I think that this just continues on further. And we start to wrap a lot of crypto in ETFs. I think the other thing outside of just these flows, which, by the way, I think the Bitcoin ETFs now hold in total more than Satoshi Nakamoto. They hold more Bitcoin than Satoshi Nakamoto. So they're the biggest holders if you combine them all, which is pretty wild. But I think what really happened here is it just legitimized Bitcoin, right? It let TradFi know, like, this thing's here to stay. We wouldn't wrap it in an ETF if it wasn't. And I think we've never been able to say that before. There was always this fear that Bitcoin was going to go away at some point, not for those that were really convicted like us, but I think a lot of, at least mainstream, a lot of TradFi, they just didn't really fully believe in it. They didn't really trust it. And I think the game has changed completely. And I think ETFs were obviously a big reason for that, both for Bitcoin. And I think Ethereum didn't have as big of a starting point, mainly due just, I think, because of the markets at that time. I don't think it had anything to do with like people don't like Ethereum or something. I think it launched in the middle of a downtrend that we had for 8-9 months. And but now you're seeing Ethereum fire back, and it's crushing it the last few weeks. And I think that only continues, and I think we'll see that continue into next year. What's interesting about the ETFs is that when TradFi people come and they look at, IBIT or they look at ETHA, these are the BlackRock ETFs, for example. When you look at the chart of those, you don't see the same chart that you would see if you look at Bitcoin or ETH on, like, let's say, TradingView or CoinGecko. When you look at that chart all time, you see these crazy swings ups and down. You're like, what is this chart pattern? I've never seen this in my life. But when you look at IBIT or ETHA on, let's say, your, in your Charles Schwab account or whatever, it's just this chart of kind of like, at least Ethereum's, the ETHA one is just basically straight up. And then the Bitcoin one is kind of like it's up, or it goes kind of down and then up like this, like a swoop. And it looks very bullish, both the charts, but you don't see any of this like cycle stuff. And so the perspective that TradFi gets on these ETFs is very, very different. And it actually looks very bullish. And I think that's going to be very exciting for 2025 because they don't know the whole history of all the rest of what's happened over the last 10, 15 years. It's kind of like if you were to look at uranium stock right now, you're going to buy some uranium. You're going to look at like the Sprott ETF, whatever. You don't really know how to go and look at uranium's price and look at the history of uranium. Most people are just going to buy the ETF. And that's a very short-lived thing because it's also quite new in the ETF world. So I think it's just an interesting perspective that TradFi has on these assets. Very different than what we all have, that's for sure.
That's what we want. We want TradFi to only see a certain picture of the pie here. Come on, and just fall in love with us. Just come on
exactly.
in. You bring up ETH, and so as you said, ETH ETF, not such a great start. We had Matt Hogan on the show back in the summer, right when the ETH ETF launched. He predicted 5 billion in net inflows by the year. Wah, wah. We did not get there. I mean, we're not at the end of the year quite yet, but as of this recording, we're at about 1.5 billion in net inflows into ETH. But it was basically at hovering around zero up until the election, and it's just shot up post-election. And also, kind of a painful year for ETH. Let's be honest. Let me bring up the ETH chart here. We started the year around, let me see, Jan 1st. We started the year at 2,200. So when you consider that, I think people forget that we were at 2,200 to start the year. Like we're up since then, up about 50% since then. So it's not like ETH has been down on the year, but in comparison to the other two majors, Bitcoin and Sol, and a lot of meme coins, which we'll get to in a minute, not such a good year for ETH. Kai, how are you feeling about ETH in 2024?
I mean, we're up 60% on the year to date. It's pretty tough to complain about that, but obviously, I mean, Bitcoin was up 129% year to date. So, like, if you're in crypto, you're obviously like, wow, I underperformed. But to anyone else, a 60% gain is like, holy shit, that was my best year ever in history. So it's kind of, again, we got to go back to perspective. But look, I think ETH had a tough year because a lot of the investment coming in this year was crypto natives, and crypto natives really hated on Ethereum this year. And Ethereum had to go through a very transition type year, right? You had competitors like Solana and others that really started to pick up some of the mind share. And then on the other hand, you had Bitcoin, which really dominated. But this is normal. Last cycle, same thing. I compare 2024 to 2020. And in 2020, it was the same thing. That was when you had the famous ETH death party, right? Where everyone was like, ETH's going to zero. We're going to have this big party because Bitcoin's the only thing that exists and it's going to be the best ever. And Bitcoin, it was just, that's what made sense in the business cycle was Bitcoin should outperform during that year. And then at the end of the year and into early 2021, ETH just came back with vengeance and dominated, and it did a 4x on Bitcoin in a matter of like 4 months. And I could see the same thing playing out here unless we get the Bitcoin strategic reserve. Then obviously I think nothing stands a chance. But to me, 2024 feels like 2020, and I think 2025 will be very similar to 2021. In terms of like Ethereum's tech and Ethereum, like what they're doing, I think they've nailed it. They've succeeded in their roadmap to scale Ethereum through L2s. L2s are crushing it. They're launching all over the place. You've got Sony and Deutsche Bank and all these others launching L2s and Base and Kraken. Like, to me, it's so obvious that the L2 roadmap is working and it's scaling Ethereum. And so I'm not necessarily concerned at all. Yes, it sucks to underperform, but it just kind of is what it is. I think it'll outperform next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of my favorite episodes of this year was with Ryan Wyatt from Optimism. You guys can go back and check that out. Still a very relevant episode because Ryan thinks in years and in decades, not in days and weeks, as so many investors do. And he really pointed out how the ETH scaling is working and how where we are now is very different than where we're going to be a year from now. The thing is that tech takes time to proliferate out through developers and to impact app creators. And also, as you said, it was really a year where it was popular to dunk on ETH. It just was, the narrative was not so great, unfortunately.
Look, since for the last month or close to a month anyway, Ethereum is up 20% on Bitcoin, right? So, I mean, this is how it looked last cycle as well. And so again, this is one of those things, those lessons where it was really tough for Ethereum. And so you could have tried to jump from one thing to the next and tried to follow the pumps of Solana or Bitcoin or whatever else is out there. Or you could just continue to do the work, try to understand that, hey, what's happening on what they're saying on crypto Twitter, is that real? And you would learn it's not. Right? It's a bunch of people creating FUD and just like talking smack about something and hating on something. And that's fine and dandy. But when you look under the hood, you look at the metrics, you look at the fundamental stuff going on, you can kind of go, actually, that's all just noise. And Ethereum is doing exactly what it said it's going to do for many, many years. And then you can hold Ethereum and not be scared. And like what we did is we just held both Solana and Ethereum. And in some cases, Bitcoin as well. And we did fantastic with that. And so like, you don't have to jump into the tribalism that crypto Twitter will do to you. And you can hold them all, you can be happy with all of them and you can believe in all three of them and like, just be happy. Crypto Twitter chooses not to do that, but you can choose the other way, which is great too.
Which is also a great investment strategy. Diversification can often lead you to the best results. If you try to pick the one winner, you might wind up with a sad face at the end. Okay, we got to go to what was definitely the winner of the year was meme coins. Like, what a year for meme coins. Something that just started off the year with WIF. I don't know if you remember, but WIF was basically at like 20 million market cap. I think even somewhere around there on January 1st. Nobody even really knew about it. It had launched in November, December of 2023, but it was nowhere on anybody's radar to start the year. And then by March 31st, it peaked out at over 4 billion in market cap in 3 months, basically. Like, what a year for WIF. And then all of a sudden we saw the WIF dog on the Vegas sphere, and it was WIF mania to start the year, and meme coin mania to start the year. How do you feel about the way meme coins went this past year?
Yeah, I think part of this golden age of crypto was the tech improving and getting, good enough where something like this can exist, right? We've had meme coins for years. So this is nothing new. We've had Pepe, we've had Doge, we've had so many meme coins in the past, and they've all gone to crazy high, like way higher than what WIF has ever gone to. And so like that's nothing new. I think what was new was finally people could come in and trade these small market cap meme coins for the first time for like, a quarter of a penny on Solana. And then Pump.Fund came along and it was like, hey, anyone can launch these things for free. It's not possible to rug anymore. And again, everyone can just have fun trading these things and punting them around, and it doesn't cost you anything, right? We were never able to do this before. And so meme coins were always existed. It's just not in this world because the tech wasn't there. And even L2s around. But remember, earlier this year, to start the year, L2s were, progressing, but it was still $1, $2, sometimes $3 to transact on L2s, right? It wasn't until the Denkun upgrade, I think in March, where all of a sudden it became, negligible and basically, free to transact on things like Base. And now Base and other L2s are almost the same price to transact as Solana, right? But I think that was the big unlock there. And then obviously Pump.Fund coming and capitalizing that. Pump.Fund really reminds me of OpenSea of last cycle. NFTs were the big thing that came last cycle. It really started in 2020, but it wasn't mainstream yet. But in 2020, it was crypto natives just screwing around with NFTs and having fun with it. And OpenSea started to become this thing that was getting all this volume and all these users. But again, it was just crypto people that were around in 2019, 2018, 2017, et cetera, that never left. And I think the same thing here with meme coins this year, it's all been just crypto native people punting around these meme coins and playing around with it. And then finally here at the end of the year, we're starting to see kind of new people come in. TikTok has started to like get into the meme world with Chill Guy. But I think Dog with Hat was basically just all crypto native people, and they were all just playing P2P against each other on this meme coin stuff. So look, new somewhat use case, kind of just cool to be able to do that stuff. Did it touch mainstream? Like, I don't think so. I don't think it's made an impact like NFTs made an impact. NFTs brought a whole new user base into crypto last cycle. They brought the sort of like artists, cultured type people into crypto. People that never cared about finance came into crypto because of NFTs. They all used OpenSea and they all bought this stuff, and they had to buy ETH as a result. And I don't think meme coins has done that, to be honest, this cycle. It's starting to now, and maybe it will more. I'm not sure. There's definitely some younger people I think that are coming in because of meme coins. But I'm not as excited about meme coins as I think some people are. I really think it's just crypto degens that have been here the whole time that are just punting around money, and they were bored for 8 months of this year because we were literally since March, we've been down only all the way until Trump won the election. And when did meme coins really take off? It was during that time, right? And so I think it was just a game for everyone. I think it continues though. But I think probably AI agents is going to be the bigger thing next year, which is kind of the new meme coin, as you guys talked about with Pierce Kicks earlier this week or earlier this month. Sorry.
Yeah, AI agents is really interesting because, and I don't want to go too deep into it right now. We got a bunch of episodes that you guys can go back and watch to learn all about AI agents and the opportunity there and how to invest and how to get exposure. But the thing that's interesting to me is they're like meme coins. So Goat was the first sort of AI agent meme coin, right? You had an AI agent that runs this Truth Terminal, this Twitter account, and it launched Goat, its own meme coin. That's a meme coin. That's really a meme coin. That really fits the category. But some of these other AI agents that are launching now sort of feel like they fit a different category because they actually have utility and they do something.
It's like a social token.
Purpose. Yeah,
it's like launching a token. If I'm going to build my own media influencer business and now I have a token with it, it's like the same thing as an AI agent because that's what they are, right?
Or it's like launching a meme coin, except if you had a full-time team that was like working on that meme coin and was producing like community around that meme coin. That's what the AI
social token. That's the influencer tokens. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Exactly what it is.
So it'll be really interesting, and you guys will have to tune into our predictions episode to see what myself, Kyle, and the rest of the team think happens with AI agents in 2025. I'm going to hold you guys in suspense on that one. Okay, let's go to the U.S. and political and regulation, because that was such a big theme of the year. And I almost want to go back even further than 2024. I think that people don't realize how big of an impact this Operation Choke Point had on America. First, we had Operation Choke Point from the previous administration, which was from Obama administration, which was when they were cracking down on gambling and gun businesses and marijuana businesses. That was like Operation Choke Point 2.0. And basically what they were doing was they were debanking a lot of these businesses, debanking a lot of these founders in somewhat of a unconstitutional way, to be honest. You can go listen to Mark Andreessen recently on Joe Rogan talks all about this. It was great, fascinating. And then we had Operation Choke Point 2.0, which was really happened more in 2023, but continued through 2024. And now that we have Trump coming in, we're going to see this big difference. That sort of leads me to like one of the major things that hasn't quite happened yet, but which was just announced recently in 2024 was Gary Gensler resigning. Was definitely a massive announcement of the year. And I got to pull up this tweet here of him announcing, and then Mert replied with the double middle finger from the kid who rugged everybody. I can't remember what this kid's name is, what an impact this is the thing that I don't think people realize how much of an impact the past administration had on crypto in the past 4 years.
Yeah, people got to remember that the US is by far the largest economy in the world, and also the place where the most innovation in tech happens, like way more than anywhere else in the world. And for the last 4 years, that has not been on crypto's side, right? They have not just choked out and debanked founders and crypto companies, which they did a bunch of in 2023 and in 2024, but they've actually just like pushed people away. It was like, hey, if you're in crypto, get the heck out of our country. Don't be launching tokens here. Don't be launching projects here. And so like, a lot of people who could have been in crypto and should have been in crypto, but didn't want to move outside of the US just were not in crypto. And then a lot of people who were and decided to stay in crypto or be in crypto, they moved to Dubai or they moved to, wherever else. And that sucks because there's a lot of capital here. There's a lot of like living in New York, living in San Francisco is very different than living anywhere else in the world, right? The mindset you have in those two cities to build and like just work your ass off on weekends and evenings or whatever, it's so different than anywhere else in the world. You don't get that. And like, that's the mindset you want your founders to be building it. And instead they had to go and like build in like Lisbon, which is like, everyone just wants to have a drink and sit by the beach, And so you just don't have these like, the founders that want to grind as much, and it's not to take away from anyone. Like, I know obviously that it's a generalization, but you want your companies to be building in New York and San Francisco. That's where the best companies are built always, especially in finance, especially in tech. And so we haven't really seen what that's like just yet. It was the very end of 2024 where all of a sudden everything just flipped and changed on a dime. Like, it was getting worse and worse. Everyone was getting Wells notices from the SEC all this year. Uniswap got one this year. OpenSea got one this year. Coinbase, Kraken, like the list goes on. Lido, the list goes on and on and on. All the best companies that were built in the US that were in crypto got this Wells notice. And finally, that's going to completely change. And so from what I've heard is a lot of people are moving back to the US and opening up companies once again in New York. Some going to San Francisco, but I think New York is really the hotspot for crypto now. And I think this is just a really big deal. And I think this is really what accelerates us moving forward, because the hive mind, all the people building in crypto, they don't have to just be on Twitter to meet with everyone now or going to conferences in Dubai. They can just do it all here in the US, where they live, where their families are, and where all the other companies will once again be. And I think that's just going to set us up for some massive, massive success. And it's going to allow all the US companies, which are the biggest and best companies in the world, to start building in crypto again. We've already seen it with Stripe jumping in and PayPal, et cetera. And so like, I just think 2025 is going to be massive for this. Because finally, for the first time, we're allowed to actually do it, or at least Americans are allowed to actually do it. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that came out of this year. ETFs obviously are huge, but like those would have happened or will happen now because Trump's in. So like, it was great we had them. It would have been a really tough year actually if we didn't get those ETFs.
That's a good point. Actually,
like,
imagine we didn't get those.
Would have been freaking. It would have been a big struggle.
We would. I mean, we wouldn't have had definitely would not have had the Q1 pump that we had.
Yeah, I don't
where
think so.
where Bitcoin reached all-time highs pre-halving. First time.
Maybe not even the Q4 in 2023. Like liquidity says we should have had that pump regardless. Mm-hmm. But I think it definitely was very much accelerated because of that, for sure.
Yeah, and it would have been smaller for sure. We can't talk about the year without talking about one of the biggest, I would say, news events of the year. Not official yet, and still some time, but was on July 31st when Senator Cynthia Lummis announced that she was going to present a bill for a Bitcoin strategic reserve in the US. Ironically, Trump was at Bitcoin Nashville, and it wasn't him that announced it. It was Senator Lummis announced it, and she wasn't even there, I don't think. It was like such a funny PR fumble, it felt like, by them. But anyways, and obviously that's going to be one of the things that we're doing lots of predictions right now for 2025. And it'll be really interesting to see who thinks it'll come in 2025 and who doesn't. And I'm hearing all different types of predictions here, but definitely this could, and you could extend beyond. It's not just the US here. There is other nation states. Brazil is also talking about bringing Bitcoin onto their strategic reserve. You have some other countries, Switzerland, I think, is talking about it, maybe not publicly. And it feels like some of the Middle Eastern countries, Saudi Arabia, I feel like are maybe, my bet is that they're already buying. They're not announcing it, and it's not public information yet. But this feels, what happens when a US strategic reserve happens, if it happens?
Yeah, I mean, Russia is one that actually this week they came out and said that there's a application for it in legislation. So we'll see if it goes through. But even at the state level, it's happening. Florida and I think Pennsylvania are both now talking about doing this. So look, I don't know if it happens. Again, Trump never said he was going to do this. It was Lummis at the conference, and then he came on and spoke like a couple hours after Lummis, and he never even mentioned it. And so I don't know why it's getting so much attention. And like, there's people saying like, this thing's for sure happening, and the probability is like 80%. And I'm like, whoa, guys, like, I don't know that it's that high. I think it's actually much, much lower, but that is going to be obviously the thing that changes the game for everything. And I'd be surprised if it happens in 2025, but if it does, like, it's game over. Right. And you can take all your charts and all your cycles and all that stuff out. And I think it's, like, charts don't matter at that point, because we're going up and up and up and up, because once the US does it, probably everyone else does it. And really probably once any country does it, everyone else does it. Right. So it's great to hear that it's finally like in the mind share of countries and states. And so you can bet it's coming at some point. I don't know when, but it's going to be a pretty big deal for sure.
All right. What about, this is big news, Kai. This is just a heartwarming story. Our buddy Vitalik settling down. He's got a girlfriend. Is this bullish for Ether? Is Vitalik distracted by love now?
I don't think Vitalik can be distracted by anything. I think he's too much of a nerd. He just loves this stuff. So I have no idea, but I honestly don't even know if this is actually true, or like, did he actually get a girlfriend? Like that, I'm not sure. I don't know that we've ever seen this girl anywhere else other than in this picture. So it's hard to say that this is actually true, but I feel like Vitalik, the one thing with Ethereum is we don't have this like one person that just like, is loud. Like Solana has Mert, and Mert is everywhere on Twitter, and Ethereum doesn't have that. And I think, but that's just because Ethereum and then Bitcoin has Michael Saylor, and Ethereum doesn't have that because it's just, at this point, it's too big. There's too many things building on it. It means too many different things for different people. You could say it's Base, right? It's Jesse Pollak from Base because that's what he's doing. But it's a lot of, you got to remember what Ethereum is. It's a settlement layer. So it's down below and then everything else is on top of it. And so you've got tons of vigilantes. But Vitalik could have been it, should have been it, but he's just too focused on researching and building. So he's not going to be that guy.
He's not. Find some time for love, Vitalik, find some time for love.
He also turned a little bit woke this year, which I don't think the crypto group loved. So he's kind of, he's not in the good books of everyone anymore.
But he did sing a great song at Token 2049 for everybody.
Remember one thing I hope for 2025, it's that he doesn't sing anymore.
Okay, another leader that had a rough year is CZ. CZ went to prison and then thankfully got out of prison 4 months later or something like that. But rough year for CZ and for Binance. And also, I wouldn't necessarily a rough year for Binance, actually. They were able to manage it pretty well. A little bit scary to see these large crypto founders. I don't know which side you sit on, Kai, whether you think that it's good that they are trying to be regulated in a certain country, or whether we should be allowing them to operate sort of without a jurisdiction.
Well, I think that the reason they cracked down on Binance is because they wanted to approve the ETFs, and they needed to make sure that was kind of the one thing overlooming the market, where like, if they're actually bad actors and they're doing something weird here, then this could go really bad. And they already had like a close eye on Coinbase because they're in the US. They didn't have anything on Binance. They're the only other huge one. And so I think they just kind of needed to do that. I'm actually very glad it happened. Sucks for CZ, but like a couple months in a probably prison for rich people, like I'm sure he was all good. It was more a vacation for him, and now he's all good. He's out and he's fine, and he had to pay some bill or some fines, but it meant nothing to him. He's like has 100 billion plus, and so like it was a slap on the wrist for him, really. But I actually think it's really good because, again, one of the things that kind of set us free here in 2024 was this concern around Binance is kind of gone at this point, right? They've gotten what they needed to get, and I think they've brought in a different team, and now we can sort of like put that one aside and say, hey, look, I think we're all good on the Binance side now, and I think that's good news. So it's one of those other things that just like, there was all these things always that kind of were sitting there like, hey, when is this going to happen? Like the Mt. Gox stuff. We got rid of the Mt. Gox stuff. Germany has gotten rid of their assets. It sounds like what I think happens is the Bitcoin reserve doesn't happen, but the US announces they're not going to sell the assets they hold. So one of those other things that just like we got past that, right? We got past the grayscale ETFs, like being able to sell all that for Bitcoin and ETH, right? So 2024 really got rid of all this overhang of supply, all this overhang of fear. And so to me, I see all these things as just something really good to set us up for a better future.
Yeah, let's go. These are bullish vibes. It sounded so good. I'm so fired up for 2025 because 2024 was great, but man, 2025 feels like it's going to be even better. I got to touch on Polymarket. Polymarket was another real winner in 2024. And one of the things that really stood out to me about Polymarket was, if you remember on election night, everybody's waiting for the media to call the election, which is, we can get into the issues around media on a separate conversation. But if you remember, it was pretty clear on Polymarket, like probably 3 or 4 hours before the media called the election, that Trump was going to win. It was clearly going his direction. All the numbers were showing that. this future of crypto-based predictions markets, these open predictions market, feels like a trend that is just getting started.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of the big use cases that came out of the year, which I think we needed. There's all this excitement for people in crypto. And then when you really strip everything away and you think about it, you're like, what really is here that's going to make the world better? That's actually going to stick around. That's not just speculative, whatever. And this was one of them, right? I mean, this is obviously still speculative. It's predictions markets, but like there's a use case to it. There's real value to it. And you can see this in many different iterations, I think, playing out. From what I've seen from other VCs that I've spoken to, they said this is like a big thing happening right now. And there's all these different new iterations on predictions markets for different sectors. And so I think we're going to see this play out even further in 2025, and it's going to become a really big thing. But this is what we want. We want more unlocks of why blockchain is useful, right? And blockchains are all about truth, right? It's like letting us know what actually is real and what is not real. And that's in terms of like financials on a ledger, but it's also in terms of like prediction markets and things like that, right? And so it's just another way to find truth in media, which is needed more than I think most people realize, and going to be needed even more as AI comes about, which was another big story of 2024 was AI. And so I think prediction markets are going to be a really big thing, and it's here to stay. What's nice is everyone thought that Polymarket's volumes and in use was going to go down like a lot after the election, and it's gone down, of course, but it hasn't gone down as much as everyone thought. Now maybe it's just taking a little bit more time for it to bleed out, but either way, I think it's a use case that's here to stay in blockchain. I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, let's go from predictions market, which to the best use case we have so far in crypto. Everybody's the least sexy use case, but damn, it looks good. And that's stable coins. And I got Athena up here because we got to give Athena a shout out. They became the fastest growing stablecoin in history, reaching $3 billion in under, what was it? It was less than 100 days, 200 days, less than 200 days. Incredible.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, Athena's at like 6 billion now today. So, and they've only been around for not even this entire year. So its growth is unbelievable. Stablecoins, I think the big story that no one seems to be talking about, and I don't know why, is that stablecoins have reached all-time high. Mm-hmm. And that to me is the most exciting thing. It's now close to 200 billion. I don't know if it's actually made it there yet.
Not quite there yet. I think it's like 195 last I looked.
Right. So by the end of this year, probably by the end of December, we'll probably hit this 200 billion. Because I mean, Athena's printing like a billion a month, like a week right now. It's growing so fast, and so I think this is the best innovation that we have outside of like decentralized money in terms of Bitcoin. But I think stablecoins is massive. When I think where adoption really comes from, I don't think it's from mainstream people. Mainstream people will come in and they'll speculate because they want to make some money. They'll get wrecked as they always do every cycle. But where real adoption comes from is corporations using stablecoins on their balance sheet to pay employees, to pay for products and services, to get paid for stuff. Like it's so much better using stablecoins. As a company that does this, we do maybe 30% of our financial activities are in stablecoins, 70% is in fiat. And man, I wish it was 100% today. It's so much freaking better. Plus, you can generate yield on your stablecoins way higher than anything you can get in the fiat world. I mean, it's like 27% right now in Athena. It's 12.5% in Maker. To me, this is the big story. And we had this last cycle because DAI did exist and you could get these kind of rates on DAI. Terra Luna also existed, so you could get 20% if you wanted to do that. But I think what's interesting this time around, what 2024 really did was say, hey, we've had these stablecoins go through a bear market, the worst of all bear markets, where literally an algorithmic stablecoin went from 50 billion to $0. These things continued to not just survive, but actually do really well and start to get back to all-time highs. And so I think plus regulation that will come from Trump taking in, I think 2025 is going to be massive for stablecoin adoption. And I think 2024 was huge for that, to like make sure that these things continued on. They continue to see growth. They continue to give yield, even though treasury yield is going down, right? Rates are going down right now in the US and other countries, but actually the yield from stablecoins in crypto are going up. And that's the first time we've seen that. And so that to me is extremely, extremely exciting. And I think that that's going to be a big story next year.
Yeah, if you guys listening want to know how you can get yield on your stable coins, you can go back and listen to a recent episode we did with Maker and Spark, where we talk about ways to get access to stablecoin yield through USDS. That's Maker Maker's stablecoin, similar to DAI, but you could do that, or you can, as Kyle said, you can go to Athena and get even more yield on your stable coins. Look, it's not going to get you the sexy, 5, 10, 100x that you're going to get from investment, but the stability of it and the low risk of it, it's almost, why wouldn't you?
We also have a pro report coming out in the first week of January, all about stablecoin yield. So make sure to check that out, pro subscribers.
There you go. There you go. Okay, we can't talk about the year without talking about your boy Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. What a year it was for MicroStrategy. Look at this. MicroStrategy was one of the top performing stocks of the year. Basically, it outperformed every single company in the S&P 500, including Nvidia and Bitcoin. Like, what a year for MicroStrategy. Obviously, it was a good year for Bitcoin, so it makes sense. It was a good year for MicroStrategy too, but you got to give it to him. Like, Michael Saylor keeps on doubling down and keeps on pushing, and he is really he's shown a new way. What's really interesting here is we're now seeing MicroStrategy copycats in other countries. We saw one in Japan. We've seen where was the other country where we saw one? I can't remember off the top of my head, but we've seen that playbook is starting to become more popular. And then we're seeing other corporations start to put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. No major corporations yet, but we might see that next year.
Yeah, I mean, the Bitcoin miners are starting to do convertible notes as well. Mm-hmm. So Michael Saylor's gotten to them. And then, like you said, Semler Scientific, Metaplex, I think it's called, or Metaplanet, whatever it is. There's some companies now in Canada doing the same. And so, yeah, this is all Saylor just pushing this in the corporate world. And I think that's just been a massive, massive story this year. The amount that this guy has bought is just crazy, especially in the last couple months here, because there's finally demand for it. Like, he was trying to buy more, I think, earlier this year, but there wasn't tons and tons of demand. I think what's interesting is a lot of people thought that this would die off when the ETFs went live, because it was like, well, why do I need to hold MicroStrategy? I can just hold IBIT. And he's only gotten better and stronger. The premium's only gotten more expensive, which was a call. Everyone said it was going to be the opposite. And if you took the opposite of that bet, then you did extremely, extremely well, which was quite interesting to think about. And I think the reason why is you get a levered bet with MicroStrategy. There's no fees, right? There are fees to when you use BlackRock's ETF or any other ETF. There's no fees to hold MicroStrategy. And not only that, but he's selling his equity to buy more and more of this stuff. And so that's why his premium has gone so high. So huge story. I think it's got a lot of people in TradFi talking about crypto. And I think that's exciting. In my opinion, I would not be buying this thing in 2025. I would be starting, if you held it in 2024, kudos to you. Hell of a trade to buy this thing early 2024. And I would not be buying anymore, though. I would be selling it into Bitcoin, right? I'm not saying you got to get out of the market, but you might want to sort of de-risk a little bit as we get further into the market here. But Saylor's just been a massive, massive person for adoption of Bitcoin and crypto in general, even though he doesn't want it to be for crypto. He wants it to be just for Bitcoin. But I know people go, they look, they hear him, they learn about Bitcoin, then they go down the rabbit hole and learn about the rest. But this is what you need, right? You need people that are just all in, and they're going to be loud, and they're going to make a splash. And that's exactly what he's done since he's been here in 2020s when he came in. And he's been just probably the biggest impact on crypto, at least this year.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think we got to wrap today's episode with a huge shout out to everybody listening in today, to all of our listeners, to all of our viewers on YouTube, to everybody that suffered through the bear market of 2023. You deserve 2024. You guys did it. You're still here. Way to go. And let's look forward to 2025, because we got a big year to come. And we are so excited and so grateful that you guys have been with us on this journey, but we're just getting started, and we're going to continue to be with you guys every step of the way in 2025 and beyond, and hopefully guiding you to some unbelievable profit and gains in 2025. I think the best line I heard recently on the show was somebody said, I think this was Lark, said, "You're going to be so rich you had no idea it would even happen." And then Lark also said, "You're going to fuck it all up." but we couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you so much. Kai, any final thoughts as we close out 2024?
Yeah, I think listen to what we just talked about here in this episode and go back to how did you react to all this news, right? When the ETFs went live, did you try to trade it? Did you move into something else? Did you FOMO in? Like, what did you do with each of these moments, right? With meme coins, did you kind of like be shy to it and say, hey, this is stupid, I'm not even going to think about it, and then you missed out on a bunch of meme coin gains? Are you still in that mindset, even though like it's so obvious that it's a real thing now? Like, of all this stuff, did you try Polymarket at all this year, or did you just kind of forget about it, right? Like, these things that we just talked about, these big moments of the year, will all allow you to look back at it and see how did you react as an investor and as a user to this. And if you missed it all, then you weren't paying enough attention. If you decided to kind of like hide from it all, then maybe you need to open up your mind a little bit and be more curious, right? There's a lot to learn here. And that's kind of why we went through all this. So take a moment. Journal is your best friend. If you're not journaling, you got to get one of those.
I love it. I love it. Kai, the journal man. The journal man coming in with the journal advice. It's so true. It's so true. Everybody, I hope you guys have a fantastic holiday with your friends and family. Enjoy whatever time off you are taking. If you're like us, you're probably not taking much time off because crypto never sleeps. So we're still pumping out content. You can still listen to the Daily Show every day, even on Christmas Day. We'll still be here. We'll still be showing up for you guys. But until tomorrow, have yourselves a wicked awesome day. As always, if you liked today's episode, please hit subscribe and make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, we're going to also leave a link for Milk Road Pro. You get access to our portfolio where you can see exactly what we are buying. This is your number one resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this show is for educational purposes only and nothing we say is financial advice. Investing in crypto or any asset is risky and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks so much for listening in, my friends. Have a wicked awesome day.